The air was thick with the scent of sandalwood and betrayal. Deep inside the Red Fort in Agra, beneath the marble corridors where emperors once walked, a scream was silenced by stone. It was the year 1628, and the Mughal Empire, exploiting pearls and ambition, was hiding a terrible secret capable of being erased from history. A princess, only 20 years old, was being built into the living wall. Not dead yet, her breath still fogging the cold granite as the last brick was laid. Her name was Noor Jahan, or at least that was the whispered name. A distant relative of the imperial court, radiant and defiant. Forget the firewall configuration. She did not beg. Instead, her obsidian-black eyes gazed steadily into the narrowing slit, as if speaking the words of hands destined to their own fate. Above, a crow cawed, its call echoing the thunder of summer storm. The court was a silk palace of suspicion. Servants busily greeted each other, while noblemen in golden cloaks exchanged sharper looks than daggers. Noor Jahan was no ordinary woman. She was a poet, scholar, a voice that echoed too loudly in a world ruled by men and emperors. They said she enchanted hearts with her words, that she knew secrets of alchemy, that her laughter could immobilize the harem. But now, her silk sari was dusty, her wrists bound with rough cords, perchance forced into a forgotten dungeon. Why this punishment? Why the brutal death that brought cold blood suddenly? Was Noor a threat to the throne, a pawn in the game of power, or something darker? An elegant woman of knowledge beyond any man's control. The builders worked swiftly, their tools scratching in rhythmic harmony. A mullah muttered prayers, his voice trembling, as if fearing that his words could bring her back. Noor's lips parted, whispering something, perhaps a poem, perhaps a farewell. The final seal on the tomb was in place. The chamber was sealed, but as the workers stepped back, a faint sound still echoed, like laughter reverberating, not from the tomb, but from the shadows of the fortress itself. A crow took flight, its wings tearing through the storm. To understand why Noor Jahan was buried alive, we must go back 6 months, when the Mughal court was a forge of faint envy and treachery. The Red Fortress pulsed with life. The courtyards rang with the clatter of footsteps and the whispering schemes. 6 months before Noor was buried alive, she moved through the harem like a flame, her presence impossible to ignore. Women whispered her name with reverence, men with unease. Noor Jahan, a relative of Emperor Shah Jahan, was not a caged princess. She wrote poetry comparable to Rumi, brewed potent medicines, and spoke of stars in a way that made the court's serpents dizzy. Her chamber housed forbidden texts, Persian, Arabic, even Greek, brought by couriers, both fearful and admiring of her. They called her the star of the harem, but to many, she was a spark too close to dry straw. Noor was careful, yet not invisible. She healed a concubine's child with a painful remedy when the court doctors failed. She predicted a storm, the emperor's hunting passion. Her talent was undeniable, but in a court where power belonged to men, she was provocative. The emperor's brother, Prince Khusro, watched her closely. His glances lingered too long, not out of desire, but calculation. Khusro, sidelined from the throne race, harbored a growing ambition like a festering wound. The beautiful wife, once Noor's close friend, now avoided her, thin-lipped with secrets. Rumors spread. Noor had answered the prince's lineage, her dreams drifting away, even communicating with demons under the blood-red moon. The court was a chessboard, and Noor was a pawn unplaceable. The ulama, religious scholars, despised her learning, calling it blasphemy. Empress Mumtaz Mahal feared Noor's influence over the women of the harem, who began questioning their gilded cages. But Noor was no rebel. She knelt before the emperor, gifting him poetry, healing his soldiers. Such acts, however, became increasingly burdensome accusations. One night, a fire consumed a noble's residence, and someone claimed to have found Noor near the flames, her sari slipping into the darkness. Coincidence? Revenge? Or something older, woven into the core of the empire? When asked, Noor only smiled, her voice soft. Some truths are too heavy for fragile minds. When the drought struck Agra, and 2 young princes died in their cradles, the court turned against her. A faction of nobles led by Khusro stormed into the harem. She is the shadow behind our calamities, they declared, their voices rising with righteous anger. No evidence was presented, and no one demanded justice. Noor was bound, her books burned, her chamber sealed. As her guards led her away, she laughed loudly, her voice echoing through the halls. "You think you've caught me," she said, "but the stars have spoken." On the night before Noor was buried alive, someone slipped through the floral path of the fortress. Prince Khusro, dressed in black, stood outside her cell. No guards, No witnesses, only a man with threats. Abandon your human path. He said harshly, swear silence, and you will live. Noor, chained to the wall, looked directly at him, her eyes more red than black in the dark. You're not afraid of my words, she replied. It's what I've seen that's terrifying. Khusro stared hard. She knew what was only known to her. Years ago, he had led a failed rebellion against his father, Emperor Jahangir. A maid, Noor's childhood friend, had overheard the plan and paid with her life. Drowned in obscurity, her death called an accident. Noor kept that secret, along with a letter proving Khusro's treason. Hidden in her chamber, omission was no sin. What was left was surviving. But survival has a cost. Khusro could not allow Noor to live, not with her knowledge, her defiance, her quiet acceptance. By dawn, the court assembled, voices ringing out. This woman conspired with demons, blood to our blood. The noble clans, desperate, found a sacrificial victim, and they beheaded her. The ulama declared her a heretic. Even Mumtaz Mahal, once her ally, turned away. Into prison, Noor faced the prayers of a cleric with a contemptuous smile. I fear not your gods, she said. I fear a world that buries its daughters alive. A guard, who had once brought her medicine for the poor, wiped tears as he locked the cell. That night, someone left a scrap of paper in her cell, under the iron bars. Not entirely innocent, are you, Noor? The question hung in the air, unanswered, as the first light of dawn touched the fortress. The tools of the builders have been quietly constructed, sealed beneath the fortress's foundation. Days later, a servant found a storage in Noor's chamber. Not forbidden books, but a diary. Pages written in Persian and Sanskrit. It was Noor's confession, not to be conforming, but to a path of women with forbidden knowledge. Her mother, an expelled scholar, had taught her secrets of herbs, stars, and hidden paths in life. What the court called magic was merely science, concealed in secrecy to survive. The ritual under the blood-red moon was not words. It was a ceremony to honor her mother, to mend the deep pain of women silenced into her soul. As her peaceful kin gathered around her, Noor whispered a final poem. You will hear me in the rain, in the wind, in dreams, those who cannot escape. A week later, Khusro was found dead, his neck cut by his own hand. The final words of Snow White spoke of a voice, Noor's voice, reciting the sins of the shadows. The court tried to forget her, but the Red Fort did not. On stormy nights, servants swore they heard a woman's laughter, gentle and sharp, echoing through the corridors. Noor Jahan was not a sorceress, but she had killed those who believed she was, and that was her revenge.